Battletech head-to-head, mech-to-mech. In this vlog, we're going to explore the Stalker versus the King Crab. Taking both of these machines, throwing them head-to-head, and asking the question, tactica-wise, with a little bit of luck, never underestimate the dice, never tell me the odds, a little bit of luck, which machine would come out head-to-head. So the first thing with both of these mechs are they are really, really scary. Just covering the tactica of the Stalker and of the King Crab, pushing that up to the Battletech playlist, these mechs are potent. They can deal a tremendous amount of damage. They could probably level a light or medium lance, no problem. They've got a ton of armor. But there's two unique different challenges to both of these mechs with how they operate. And given the weapons, given the tonnage, and given the skill, I would say in the narrative, the skill of a mech warrior, I'd almost bump up those skills by +1, simply because to be piloting such a machine, a decisive blow in battle, in the narrative, you're going to be a little bit better than average in terms of skill, or at least with the battles that you've seen. So in exploring this, I think it comes down to a very, very thin situation, a narrow situation that needs to manifest on the table. So let's start that narrative out, right? Both machines are advancing. Maybe they're part of a lance, and now they've locked on to each other, and they need to destroy each other. Basically, kind of like, not that there is not other things going on with this head-to-head series. And I've been pushing up the Battletech head-to-head to my channel under the Battletech Mech versus Mech playlist. But the idea is, yes, you're part of a lance, other things are going on, but 10 minutes of fighting. 10 minutes, what would that look like? What would that happen? So the first thing, of course, is range. The Stalker has better range on the King Crab. And given the armor of the King Crab and the fact that we want to stay as far away as possible from those dual autocannon 20s, we're going to stay at range and literally try to stay at range. The King Crab really doesn't have that much in terms of firepower back. And this is what I see the first tactica of the Stalker, which is a little bit different than normal Stalker tacs, because normally the Stalker has multiple answers for multiple ranges, and you want to kind of pound away, close until you get that point blank. But the Stalker is able to dance at different ranges. Now, when it stays at long range, normally the Stalker, it's going to fire at long range, and any return firepower, it'll soak up with the armor. So a little bit of a attrition. Well, against the King Crab, without much of a response back and wanting to stay away, defense against King Crab, no problem, real easy. Just don't get into range of those autocannon 20s, or don't get into the kill zone. I mean, I could stay at long range. I don't want to be at range at all, but don't be 3 hexes or less, point blank, with 2 autocannon 20s. No way. So the Stalker will want to stay at range and really start to pound away at the King Crab. Now, the King Crab, of course, the tactics are simple in that this is what we're going to do. And of course, the execution is going to be a little bit different. Is it possible? King Crab wants to close. We're going to shrug off. We're going to go hull down. We're going to put that shell up. We're going to take our hits. We're going to close. And we're going to get 1 to 3 hexes, possibly point blank, possibly base to base. We'll explore that possibility, although it's a little bit more risky with the Stalker, given the tonnage, assault mech versus assault mech. Get close, blast away, just blast away. And 3 or 4 turns, it's going to scrap most machines, because you can only take so many autocannon hits, but B, even if it's diffused out, if it's like left torso, left arm, left leg, right leg, even if you spread it out, eventually it's going to wear you away. And once it goes to internals, it's just going to obliterate. And then, of course, damage transfer in Battletech. So the King Crab is going to want to close. Stalker is going to try and stay away. Can't stay away forever. Can't. I mean, maybe if we're on a wargaming table and we'll just keep on backpedaling like crazy, or even backpedaling eventually, you can't maintain that. The best I could do is try to run in circles, try to run in big circles and stay on the outside of that circle and get some torso twists and things like that. But eventually the King Crab is going to close and catch up to me. At that point, when that happens, now the clock begins for that Stalker pilot, because putting a headshot aside, although that is always a concern, and we're going to side note that, rolling that, putting headshots aside for a moment, eventually that armor is going to wear thin, not so fast, but fast enough on the Stalker. The question for the Stalker pilot is going to be, have they stripped away enough armor at range that now, once we bring all of the closer weapons and the redundancy of those weapons to play, can they finish off the King Crab? And of course, from that perspective, I see the Stalker pilot pushing the heat tremendously pushing the heat. Just because you need to be firing everything that you absolutely can. I can see it cutting down on those things, maybe even pushing some negative modifiers, which at that point, you're point blank. Doesn't really matter. Now, the King Crab closing, right? King Crab wants to get there as fast as it can. It's just going to point and click, straight line, and try to run in. I see the King Crab when it gets close, blasting away with those autocannon 20s. And normally what I would do with King Crab Tactica is get close for physical attacks. Start kicking. Just start dropping the axe kick on things. But the challenge here in the Stalker is King Crab is not going to be punching based on those autocannons. Against an assault mech, if I went base to base and it punched back, it's got that tonnage, even if it's facing something like a Banshee. 1 in 6 chance of a headshot. I don't know if I'd want to do that. Stalker, no arms, no hands. It's all good. It's all good. But there is kicking. I got to worry about that kicking from the Stalker. It's got the tonnage. Do I want to risk that? I'm even in kicking myself. Personally, I would probably stay back at this point by 1 or 2 hexes and just absolutely blast away. Blast away, blast away. Now, let's talk about headshots. Because what's interesting about 2 autocannon 20s, just rolling the dice, it could happen. Never say never. Could happen. An autocannon 20 headshot is enough to force not only internal damage checks, but pilot checks and go night-night, taking those losing consciousness. Taking those headshots, that's the other thing. That could happen. That could make work fast, really, really fast of that Stalker. So tactical-wise, who are you going to give it to? I'm going to give it to the Stalker. I'm going to give it to the Stalker pilot because if it's on a good-sized 2-hex maps or a wargaming table, staying at a distance, advantage there, pounding away. Staying at medium range, distance, pounding away. When you close at that point, if the Stalker pilot can pull it off, then the King Crab will be damaged enough, it can hopefully make quick enough work and not get stripped down by those autocannon 20s. But that said, I could see it also going to the King Crab with a little bit of luck, and that is a fearsome, scary, scary mech. So turning it over, and both of these are both of my favorite machines. Absolutely. So looking at it from that perspective, a lot of fun to play. So as a mech commander, Stalker versus King Crab. Who takes the field? Who takes the hex map? As a mech warrior, which machine would you want to pilot and where would you want to find yourself or be in such a situation?